All right. What's up? It's good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. First of all, I got to tell you, I have notes for today because I think it's important, and I think I want to get it right. This has been a great off season, and there's so much going on at the U of A right now. I'm so excited for Tommy Lloyd and our men's basketball team. Their great run in the Big 12 tournament. All the other sports that are performing at a really high level. It's really exciting. I'm excited to see what Tommy and that team does in the NCAA tournament. But I think it's important I give you guys an idea before we get to questions about kind of what our priority has been in the building this offseason. And really there's been three things. The first is cementing our culture. The second is cementing our personnel. And the third is kind of cementing our performance. And when I talk about cementing our culture, I'm talking about our everyday process-driven approach and Redline. I know you guys have seen Redline on the field and around the building, but that's something that's been a huge focus for us. And when we talk about cementing our personnel, that started with building the staff, the men that are going to lead our football team, and making sure we had everybody in the right position that gives us a chance to win football games in the fall. And then we had to build our team. And so far at the mid-year, we added 34 new players, 27 high school, and 27 portal and 7 high school players. And then we have another 20 high school / junior college players joining us at the end of May. So that's gonna be 48 new players on a roster of 105. That is a big number, right? And when we identified these players, the conversations with the coaching staff was intense, and it was very clear. We were looking for guys that were tough, that love football, and wanna be here at the University of Arizona. Yes, they had to have the talent, they had to be good enough, all those things. But those three questions had to be definitively answered for me to say, let's bring them in. And I think we've done a great job of adding really, really good pieces to our team. And then that last piece is cementing the performance. And that started with our strength and conditioning staff and Coach Carroll and what that has been the last 8 weeks. And there's been big gains in that space. 500 pounds of muscle in transition has changed over from what we were at the end of last season to where we are at right now. That is exciting to me. This is what we're doing at Arizona football right now. This is everything we are all about. Cementing our culture, cementing our personnel, and cementing our performance. What do y'all got?
Regarding the spring game, a lot of schools around the country are canceling their games, but you guys are kind of doing the spring game with a twist. Can you go ahead and just talk about the details regarding that?
Yeah, the spring game is going to be an incredible day here. We're going to have an Easter egg hunt for little kids. It's going to be an awesome day of community engagement. We've got a beer garden for the fans on the field, right? Which sounds like a good time to me, getting close to the action. And then on top of that, we're going to play some football. We're going to have kind of a practice, but we'll have some live stuff mixed in there. And that'll get more defined for us as we go, right? Because we got to see where we're at health-wise. Like, I think the days of splitting the team in half and having, the 1s and the 4s play the 2s and the 3s, I don't think that's going to happen anymore, because I just think there's too much invested in the players on the field, and it's complicated because there's a fine line there. You got to get ready to play, but you also need to make sure that you protect your most valuable assets on a football team.
How much of spring ball do you think you can actually do scheme with so many new players, or is it a lot of just getting to know each other and figuring each other out for most of it?
No, we are diving hard into scheme. And I think that's one of the things that, obviously with Coach Gonzalez, there's some carryover, right? Now, and I'm excited about him in that role as part of, the building the staff and moving the pieces in place and cementing our personnel, right? His experience as a play caller, the fact that he's been in so many battles and been in so many situations, the fact that he's an expert in the 3-3-5, but then also has been like in and around in enough football where he has experienced being in 3 down and 4 down, and that gives us some variation, and I love the style that he's accustomed to, which is just an aggressive attacking defense. And so, a lot of those things have already started with our players. And then on top of that, when we talk about Seth Daggy, I think you guys are going to love the energy he brings to the practice environment. And he's a creative guy, but he is all about explosive offense. And when he talks to you, like, you need to put a tally on how many times he says explosive. I'm going to say it's double digits, right? Because that's what he's all about. He feels like it's a mindset and something that our team is going to lean into and attack as we go.
As far as like position battles go, is there any particular position that you're looking forward to most? And do you think you will have a good idea of some of those positions, or will that be something that you guys carry into training camp?
I would say every situation like that is different in terms of what you're going to say. Is this guy the starter or is this guy the starter, right? You know what I mean? Like Noah Fafita is our starting quarterback, right? But I'm excited to see those other quarterbacks play. And I think the most interesting position battle in my mind, I think is going to be at wide receiver. Obviously, we added a bunch of really good players there. And so I think the competition there is going to be intense. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And there's some guys that established themselves as pretty good players for us last year, but how much can we elevate that group? And that's what the competition of spring practice is about, is giving everybody a chance to be on the field and prove it and attack it.
Coach, in terms of Noah Fafita, what was some of the positive feedback you gave to him, and what was also some of the constructive criticism that you offered him to allow him to be in a position to grow this year?
I think the best thing about Noah Fafita is that he is his hardest critic. You know, there are so many things that when you watch film with him, he is almost having some of the coaching points, you know, with you because he can see it. He knows what that is. The exciting part for me is that I think Coach Deggy is going to be a different voice for him. He's going to be a guy that played the position at an extremely high level, right? You can already see their bond developing and growing as we're around the building every day. So that part's exciting to me.
As you mentioned, Noah is established as a starting quarterback. Given that dynamic, was it difficult to find someone who was willing to come in here knowing that they probably wouldn't, you know, I'm talking about Braden Locke, of course, knowing that they wouldn't be the starting quarterback unless there was an injury situation? Was that a difficult needle to thread at all?
I don't think so, because I think that would have been 5 years ago when guys couldn't transfer, but now I think the world's way different. I think the opportunities are more like plentiful, right? And because you have two portals a year, you have like multiple opportunities, and the hardest position is quarterback because only one guy gets to play, right? But the thing that's going to be great about Braden is that he's going to push the hell out of Noah Fafita. I promise you that. The kid's a competitor, and so are the other guys that we added at that position. They're young, but they're going to be a lot of fun. And so that's going to be fun to watch as that thing kind of, you know, moves and develops over spring practice, because we haven't had a chance to be in any of those situations with all of them yet except for Noah.
What can you tell us about some of the hires that you have just recently made to fill out your staff?
Well, they're here. You can probably say hi to them. I'm sorry?
I wanted to hear.
Well, so Coach Navarre, when I was looking for somebody for the special teams coordinator role, I was looking for someone that was passionate about that part of it, about that part of the football game. I think lots of times on coaching staffs, you have an assistant coach, because I lived it. I was stuck in that space when I was an assistant, a long time ago, working for Coach Tomey, right? I was the receiver coach, and I was also the special teams coordinator. And so you're just splitting time, and it makes it super complicated because there's a lot of work to do, right? And so I was looking for someone that is going to just be solely focused on special teams and making us elite in that world. And when he came in here to spend some time and interview with us, the energy he had in that meeting room, everybody felt it. The command he had of what he was talking about was so powerful. And then the first time he talked to the team, he lit that room on fire. And I was like, here we go. This is what we're talking about. So someone that is an expert at this, right? He's done it at a high level, right? He's done it at the University of Texas. He's done it at USC. Like he's had to coach the kicking game in big time situations, but he's also been coaching for long enough where he's not new to this, right? And he knows how to teach, and he knows how to command a room, and I'm excited about that.
Another one that you brought in is someone that fans here are very familiar with, in Ronnie Palmer, who had a lot of success as a head coach at the junior college level. What do you envision his role being?
I think anytime we can bring somebody back into the program that played here and is part of the legacy here of Arizona football, I think that's powerful. We got to know Ronnie because when he was in Monterey, they were right down the street from us. And so we would see him, he would come to our clinic, we'd recruit his players, so we had a good relationship with him already. The fact that we were looking for a defensive line coach to work alongside Coach Salavea, the fact that they both played that position here, like that kind of energy that they have when they get together, because they both played that position at the University of Arizona, it's powerful. And they can talk about this place to recruits and their families in unique ways that a lot of us can't, because we didn't go to school here. But those guys are powerful with that. And so Ronnie's going to be a great addition. Obviously, we saw him do an excellent job at Monterey. And so, you know, that addition, you also have somebody who has been a head coach, who has coached lots of different things and has had lots of different roles. And I think there's value on a staff that way. He's used to dealing with the whole team, right? He's used to dealing with the offensive and defensive players and specialists. It's not just one side of the ball. So he's going to be a great addition.
Obviously, Coach, you've got to replace probably maybe one of the best kickers in school history. How excited are you about that battle specifically?
Well, that's going to be a lot of fun. And, you know, I think one of the things that we saw from Michael last year was that, you know, Jed signed him as a place kicker, right? But then he came in here and he was our starting punter because Tyler Loop was playing so well. I'm excited to see what Tyler Loop does in this draft, man. People are excited about him. But I digress. You know, so Michael has a really strong leg and he's very talented. And so we're excited to get to work with him. And then we're also going to add some other pieces there as we go, right? We still have, you know, 6 months before this thing kicks off in the season. So now that we have Coach Navarre in place and some of those conversations about specialists and how we're going to work all that, you know, that some of that will get defined over spring, right? But we have a lot of faith in Michael. He's a very, very talented kicker. And go ahead.
Specific differences in the special teams that you're looking for than what you had last year?
Well, I think for me, having someone that's their job, just the kicking game, kind of like the NFL model, right? The special teams coordinator in the NFL doesn't also coach the tight ends. He coaches special teams, and that's what I was looking for.
Speaking of people that were brought back, a couple of the transfers, there were some that were with you at San Jose, including one who went to Texas and is now coming to you again, but then also Tia Savea, who played here, left and then came back. How does something like that play out? I mean, how did that one come up?
They're all different. I think for Tia, I think the Bear Down Brotherhood was really special to him. And you see that as he interacts with the players and, the guys that he had spent a lot of time with. And also, I think Coach Salavea was a big part of that.
Michael, we've talked about tackling in practice aplenty. What is your approach? What is your plan for that when it comes to this spring and then maybe even training camp too?
That's a good question and a hard one. I think everybody knows that's a hard one. I would say, I think you can be a little bit more aggressive in the spring because you have a little bit more time, right, with some of that. But I think you also need to be smart about who gets tackled and who's doing the tackling, right? Because there's a lot of marquee players on this team that people are really excited to see play in September, right? And so how do we make sure that the environments are as safe as we can possibly make them and still get the work done? We have to get done to be prepared, right? So there's a balance in that.
Do the quote-unquote salaries that the players make, is that a consideration? Is that part of the thought process at all?
I would say the salaries correlate to the level of player, right? So if a kid is the higher salary kid, he's also a really good player. And those are the guys we need to make sure can play in the fall. So I think that would be how I would think about that.
So T-Mac had a private workout here today. What did you make of that? And what has it been like for you to see him go through the process and just answer a lot of questions from NFL teams just about his potential?
It's been really, really positive because obviously it's not just T-Mac people are excited about. They're excited about Big Jonah and they're excited about Tyler Loop, right? So three guys, it's not that often that you have that many, general managers and scouts asking you about a place kicker. But T-Mac obviously is something different and he's a special player and he's an amazing young man. And being able to see him at the combine and, there was a handful of us out there. Our GM was out there, Lauren Vossler was out there. I think it was really a good situation because no one knows the scouts are really close with your general manager. So Geiska being out there could give them all the intel that they needed to support T-Mac, Jonah, and Tyler on their journey. Same thing with me. Like I spent half a day in organizations' boxes, and I was talking with the head coach and the general manager and the offensive coordinator of a bunch of teams. And so because of that, having that access and them also having me there, it was a great opportunity for them to ask real questions about these players and how they're going to add value to those organizations when they get there. And so it's been fun to watch, be a part of.
How would you summarize just the last year, and how would you compare going into last spring compared to this time around?
I think the last year has been amazing and challenging at the same time. I think there's been incredible moments and also some really hard ones. But I'm really focused on what's happening going forward, right? That's where my head's at. You know, I'm excited about the 2025 football team at the University of Arizona, the players that are here, the coaches that are here, and how we're building this thing and moving forward together.
Is there something that you specifically learned or don't want to do from last spring that you are implementing or not implementing this time around, like something that you're changing either for better or changing?
I don't think so. I would say, given the new additions on staff, there are always conversations about, hey, have you ever tried this? Have you ever done this? Kind of how do we structure practice? And so I think we're just excited to get back to work on the field, right? We haven't been on a football field forever. And so we're excited to get back to work and get to coach the players on the grass and be on the field and be with the coaches and kind of start to actively build this thing out there.
Jason? Yeah, just for our NFL draft coverage, which is on ABC this year, so one more question about T-Mac. The position of wide receiver has kind of become a little of a diva position, if you will, in the NFL. Here's a guy who just doesn't want to draw attention to himself. What have you been telling people in the NFL about T-Mac when you ask about it?
That he's an incredible hard worker, that in terms of his movement and his ability to play the football, he's rare. And he's a player, we were talking about it earlier as a staff, like he was a player that was never on a list. He was never late. He never had an academic issue. Like he was on point all the time, not a single misstep in any of that. And I think NFL teams like guys that are serious about their business, and there's no question that T-Mac is extremely serious about his business. I'm a receiver coach by trade. I played it. I've been coaching it my whole career. When you have a 6'4.5", 218-pound guy that moves like him, like they don't. Like so, his movement, his short range quickness, his catch radius is totally unique. Like totally unique. And I've coached hundreds of them, and I've coached a lot of NFL players too, but he is unique.
And Jonah, a little bit about him. He might go late first round or the second round. I'm not sure exactly where he is right now, but what makes him a special player?
I think the thing I'm going to remember about Big Jonah in terms of my time with him here is how unselfish he was. Because when we had to move him from right tackle to left tackle, he didn't even flinch. Right, it's a position he hadn't played, and that was just an incredible, unselfish, all about the team moment. He was a big topic of conversation at the Combine. Everybody was talking about how the room lit up when he entered, which I'm sure you guys all know how that feels with Big Jonah. Like just that personality, that outgoing, kind of that big smile. He's a really special guy. And then he ran 4.95, then he crushed all the measurables, right? Broad jumped 8.10, right? Guys, come on, guys. I know you got the stats for me. Let's go. Yeah, broad jumped 8.10 and jumped 28. Yes, 335-pound guy running 4.9.
Given that, as you mentioned, there's some carryover on the defensive side, whereas on offense, it's pretty much a completely new system starting from scratch. Do you expect the defense to be kind of ahead of the offense?
I think in my experience in spring practice, most times the defense is ahead of the offense, right? There's a little less assignment there. It's more reaction. That's been my experience, But I'm excited. Because I also think what we're doing on offense is going to be very different than what our team is used to seeing from our offense. So I'm excited to see the back and forth. And I'll tell you this, on any good football team, that needs to go back and forth. The offense needs to have a good day. The defense needs to have a good day, right? It can't just be one side of the ball dominating all of spring practice. Like that does not work. You know what I mean? So I can't wait to get out there.
With Coach Aquina's departure, what are the roles going to be for the secondary coaches?
So Coach Viney's going to coach corners, and Coach RC's going to coach safeties, which is great. That's exactly the spaces they were in last year, and there's a lot of comfort with them and a lot of trust. Those guys have been with Coach RC for a while now. Those older players, and that part of it. And I know in my experience with Coach Viney, he's one of the best young secondary coaches I've been around.
Is anyone unavailable to participate at the outset? Traden Stukes is the one that comes to mind for me, who
Right.
had an injury last year.
Yep. Yeah, so anybody that had a season-ending injury last year, like they're not going to be ready to play, right? That's Rhino, Traden, those are easy ones. Yeah. I think for the most part we'll be close to full strength out there.
Is your philosophy with something like that to sort of proceed with caution, especially this time of year, as opposed to pushing them out there?
I don't ever make medical decisions, not one time. Those are up to doctors and trainers. Never.
As far as you mentioned receivers and how that's a big competition, what did you like out of Chris Hunter and what he was able to do in the last few games to end the season?
I think Bobby Wade is an outstanding receiver coach, and I'm really, really excited about what he's going to do with this group because you saw him develop Chris Hunter. You saw that accelerate on the back half of the season. And so you saw Chris Hunter track a deep ball. You saw him go up and win a 50-50 ball. You saw him catch screens and be effective catching screens. You saw him run short range, kind of mid-range stuff and be effective there. I thought his development over the season was really, really good. He's an awesome kid. He's a super hard worker. Is a really universally well-liked guy on the team. And I'm excited for this next year for him.
Any more questions?
Come on, come on. That's all you got?
You got to space it out.
All right. It's great to see everybody. Bear down.